I guess I'm just, sometimes life just catches up with you.
Yeah. Well, that Michigan State loss definitely put me in a little bit of a, honestly, like I'm better than I used to be. I'll say that
Hmm.
it used to be that stuff would really get to me. And now I was extremely irritated in real time watching that game.
Hmm.
And then when it was over, I actually turned it off with 2 minutes left. That's like the new thing. I've learned to actually do that, which is that if I'm
Right.
not enjoying the game and it's inevitable, I'm just like, oh yeah, I can just like stop watching. There's like no rule that I have to like watch this thing all the way through to the end.
New rules. I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, should we jump into it here?
Let's go.
Hail cheaters! Welcome to the Always Cheating podcast. We're back. This is the fourth pod we have done since the international break began. The first one, though, Brendan, we have actual FPL to get into, which I'm excited about. We have a midweek, so right off the bat, just
Mm.
quick. If this is, if you've completely checked out in this podcast, just hit your feet for the first time, and actually we've been doing pods. I don't know what
We've
we've been
been here.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of
You're a
them.
liar,
Yeah,
listener.
yeah. But if you're yeah, exactly. But if you are like just now checking back into fantasy, please note there are games on Tuesday. It's a midweek. So the FA Cup matches this weekend. Obviously, that had a big impact on the rest of the season. Just like old times, you have
Hmm.
the FA Cup semifinals, and that means there are teams that were scheduled to play on those weekends that now have rescheduled fixtures, and we don't actually have as much clarity as I kind of hoped we would have. But we do have our very smart people who look at this stuff and make
We've
best
got some
guesses.
outside firms that
Yeah,
are working on this around the clock for us.
they have consistently proven themselves to be worth listening to, right? So I think we can
Yeah.
we can rely on them. Thank you to Ben Crellin and Lego Mane and all the other hardworking souls out there who do the hard work to figure this stuff out. Because I was looking through Ben's notes like ahead of this,
Hmm.
like it is hard. Like it is not easy. It's like
Yeah.
you are literally reading through press releases from clubs trying to read tea leaves and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And somehow it's like if you do enough of this across enough different venues, you get what we have empirically found to be
Mm.
like an accurate picture of what's actually going to happen.
Right.
And obviously they will like formally announce all this stuff at some point, but it's pretty important to know if a team's going to be playing twice or blank, in the upcoming weeks. I mean, obviously we know some of these teams are going to blank. We don't know which game weeks is going to happen, right? So if you
Right.
know when it's going to happen, it has a major impact on your transfer strategy, right? So the earlier you can kind of come to some conclusions about this, the better the better off you are, and you might have an edge on some people who aren't paying as much attention.
We've been left in a funny spot coming into the game week 30 deadline, though. Of
Yeah,
we know it's almost like a situation that you see in fantasy a lot, where you have just enough information to shoot
yeah,
yourself in the foot.
yeah,
As you say, the picture, despite everyone's best efforts, is not crystal clear as to how the doubles and blanks will shake out.
yeah.
So, what we're trying to solve for in this episode is uh, basically bare essentials of what you need to do for game 30,
Right.
game week 30, and then B, what do we need to really know to strategize for the rest of the season in terms of chip strategy? You and I both have all of our chips, save the assistant manager chip. What does
Yeah.
this mean?
Yeah.
And I think also the biggest thing right now for game week 30, a lot of people are thinking of, well, maybe I should be wild carding. There is a lot of injury news that I think maybe you and I need to take a temperature check on,
Yeah.
namely Holland, Palmer, and Chris Wood. And I think these three guys are huge factors in terms of whether you want a wild card, whether you want to wait, what is
Yeah.
what is your captaincy strategy for game week 30 and beyond.
What is the latest with Cole Palmer, by the way? That is the one that I have not. Maybe I'm getting ahead of us a little
So
bit here, but
yeah, I guess just we don't have clarity on it, and the latest is he's not been pictured in training, but coming out of an international break, what exactly does that mean?
right,
And I think he's been abroad. He was pictured at a hotel in Dubai or
right.
some such place, and
Looks like
it's kind of unclear
yeah,
what he's been up to.
looks like he might have been in training on the 28th, which would be encouraging. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and he I think is the worst. The worst. I think he's the least of our concerns, given
yeah,
that Chelsea do not play until Thursday. I mean, this Chelsea
right.
Spurs game is kind of outrageous from a scheduling point of view, and that all these other teams played this weekend Uh,
Right.
and Chelsea and Spurs been twiddling their thumbs, and they get this stay of
Yeah.
execution until Thursday. But I think like
Yeah.
he's got still quite a bit of time from the us
Right.
recording
Especially because
to recover.
they still have Europe as well,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah, we're in like the complicated season. So let's but I don't know. I think we should just get into some details here, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
let's get down to brass tacks, as it were, Brandon. You know what that expression comes from? We talked about this before.
Yes, it's from upholstering furniture.
That's right. That's right. We have talked about it probably many times for all I
Just
know.
don't want to.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
You clearly came into that piece of knowledge relatively recently, and you're very excited to share.
No, I actually think it was through this pod at some point, but it is fun to think about. It's one of those things once you learn it, it's like a fun fact that you do want to share as often as possible. It's like once Brandon, you want to tell it to the whole. It's like falling in love. Getting down
Yeah.
to brass tacks is
You're like
yeah.
Tom Cruise on Oprah's couch talking about Katie Holmes.
I am. Yeah, exactly. I want to jump up and down on that. I want to get down to brass tacks through my jumping up and down,
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so we had FA Cup this weekend, back from the international break. Of course, as we kind of expected, all of the injured, I'm using quotation marks here, players were back in some capacity, which I'm sure I suspect Cole Palmer will be the same. So Villa won 3-0. I guess I'm kind of going backwards here. I'm doing Sunday and then Saturday, but it's fine. So
Sure.
Villa won 3-0. Rashford had a brace. Watkins, who had been an injury doubt, came off the bench, so I think we can kind of clear him now. I don't see any reason to think that this is a long-term Watkins benching. I know you have not been thrilled with his performance this season,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine that he is now a squad bench player.
Hmm.
Certainly, especially if they plan to try to sign him for a long-term contract, this summer.
I wonder if they just plan to sell him in the summer, and it's just kind of like c'est la
Yeah,
vie.
I don't
The
know. I don't think
the
so.
the most interesting thing about the Rashford brace in the FA Cup against Preston was that he took a pen with Marco Asensio on the pitch. Now, Asensio has taken a pen for Villa, and there is some question of, well, who's the number one pen taker?
Yeah.
Is it Watkins? Is it Asensio? Is it Rashford? Well, Rashford is getting closer to having the primacy there, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, wait, another player though, it's like, are they, I guess they'll try to resign him. Like, I don't know. It's sort of, he's been
Why would he
good,
go back to United? It seems
you know.
like, yeah, not that would not be the preferred move if you're Marcus Rashford.
No, that's true. I mean, I almost wonder if they just like if I'm then though, I mean, it doesn't feel sustainable with him, does it? It's like he's sort of like he's got to be like I feel like he should just go on loan for the next 10 years,
Uh-huh.
right? This is like every year he should go on loan to a new club, and
Yeah.
that will keep him motivated enough to play hard all the time, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I don't think going back to Man United, but can't you just see him signing like a 4-year deal with
Hmm.
Villa this offseason, and then like you never hear from him again,
I
basically.
think you get a one good season out of Rashford heading into the World Cup because surely
Right.
his
That's
goal
true.
is
That's
to make the
true.
England squad, right?
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about the World Cup aspect of it. So maybe. Well, anyway, I don't. I think Rashford is still off our radars, FPL wise, at least, um, or at least in all ways. Rashford is off our
Forever and
radar.
always.
I'm not picking the
Goodbye.
England squad. Yeah. So I think that's the big news from the Villa match. Bournemouth was a little more interesting. You had Haaland, who missed a pen, then he scored, then he was spotted on crutches. So we kind of got the whole everything with Haaland in this match.
Hmm.
Marmoush, another goal. He had the game winner in this match. Evan Nilsson scored, and Utara was benched again. No, you could possibly argue that an Utara bench, if you still have him in your team as I do, you could argue that an Utara benching could mean that he is has a better chance of starting at midweek. I don't know. I'm not sure that I totally buy that. I mean, the problem is Bournemouth still have a chance at a European spot. So I don't think they can just, they basically just have to play their best team for everything at this point. Would be my feeling
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. David Brooks started essentially in his place. And
Yeah.
then we've seen Tavernier start in that position as well. Just a lot of options. Yeah. The Dango problem needs to be solved if you
I
still have
know.
him.
I know. My team is a mess going into 30. Like it's a real, and obviously we're going to talk about wild card in a second, but it's a real question for me about
Mhm.
what I do, I'm happy to walk through that with you in
Oh,
a second
please,
here.
good. Yeah.
But first, yeah, Marmoush, I mean, very much on the radar now, I think, if he wasn't before, from an FPL perspective. I mean, he's just having, I think I made this analogy before, but it's reminiscent of when Bruno joined Man United at midseason, a few years ago. That sort of January transfer who just kind of explodes out of the gate, right? And I
Mhm.
feel like he's just been, kind of it's feel like it sort of feels like, I mean, maybe you're always rolling the dice with the transfer a little bit, and it feels like they've struck out like the last 5 times, and this time it finally kind of worked out for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
He will be playing in the 9 presumably with
If
Haaland
Holland's out,
injured
right?
for
So
however long he is, and yeah,
yeah,
we'll talk about City a bit because they will benefit FPL wise going into the FA Cup semifinals as they will double. They will have the
right.
double game week.
Yeah, exactly. So that, yeah, which makes the Holland thing a little trickier, obviously, because we just don't have any clarity at the moment on where we are with him. I mean, granted, like the Man United staff probably don't know either at this point. Fulham lost 3-0 to Palace. A little more of a shellacking than I would have expected. Mateta back from injury had this. I don't know if you saw the Mateta like mask that
I
he had
did,
on.
yeah.
It was the ear mask. I've never seen a mask like a face mask quite like that before. It was sort of unique the way it was.
Yeah, as it was
Yeah,
just covering the ear, I suppose,
yeah,
the
yeah.
point of damage, and
Hmm.
it looked odd,
It
and
did like a little,
his
yeah, but
performance was kind of quiet. I mean,
yeah,
Eze really did just shine brightly in that match, and Fulham completely receded and got their like Joachim Anderson has got to be replaced this summer. It's turned into a bit of a joke transfer from Palace to Fulham,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
But
Just yeah.
that said, there's just like so much to love about this Palace team fantasy wise. As a feeling it is always a great welcome sight. Sar scores again, I think his 4th match in all competitions in a
Yep,
row.
he's been great.
Another clean sheet. Munoz again attacking. There's a lot of options with Palace.
Yeah, and I'm kind of depending on what I don't know. I like so I've been thinking about Palace a fair amount. Because you can cast your mind back several weeks ago, Brandon, but I did. I brought in Eze in game week 28 with the idea that I would free hit in 29. I kind of had to, given all the injuries in my squad. It was not like it was not like an optimal strategic move, but something that I kind of just I had to personally do for my team. But I brought in Eze with the thought that, well, I'll get him for 28 and then I'll get him for 30 for this Ipswich match. I'm still not sure how many Palace players I kind of want in my squad, right? Like if I were trying to hold off on wild carding, right, until I don't know, 33 or 34, for example, like wait. Um, then you can make an argument for maybe just having like 2 Palace players. I mean, their double is just not a great double, right? They're away to Man City, away to Newcastle.
Hmm.
So I mean, even given that how I mean, they might be the best team in the Premier League right now in terms of their like current form, but it's still like 2 of the worst fixtures you can have, right? Away to Man City and
The thing though is
Newcastle.
they have the potential Palace do of doubling twice in 32 and again in 33, a la
Sure.
Liverpool a while back. And this is regardless of the fixtures, and that would be Arsenal away in that
Right.
other double. It still just could be the dice worth rolling. The dice worth rolling. Okay. So
I know what you mean.
I think like your strategy now with Palace, I just feel like loading up on Palace now and then offloading them once we get to the blank in game week 34 feels right. I mean, they finished the season at Anfield. They'll probably know exactly where they stand at that point. They could
Right.
very well blank in 37. So, in a way, if you were interested in holding off your wild card, it's sort of like bring in as many Palace guys, bring in 3, and then wild card them all out
Yeah.
when you get to 34.
Yeah, but I guess I just mean like specifically for 32 with the really tricky double away. Would you want like 2 defenders, for example? Like
No.
that doesn't feel ideal, right? And having 2 attackers maybe that's fine. Like I could see them scoring in both those matches, like Mateta and Eze or Sar Mateta.
Hmm.
Eze Mateta, I suppose, like with the assumption that like if they're going to score goals, one of those two will be involved in the
Sure.
goal.
Yeah, and Munoz is a double threat. He's the most attacking fullback at this
Yeah.
point in the season,
Yep.
so I feel like he's definitely a gamble that's well worth taking. So
Yeah.
yeah, go three with Munoz, Sar, Mateta,
Yep.
Munoz, Eze, Mateta.
Yeah. I
Basically
mean,
one from each position.
and they both offered something today. A Sar goal, and then Eze had a goal and assist. So
Hmm.
quite a lot. From a Fulham perspective, Robinson, who was an injury doubt, didn't play with the U.S. men's team over the international break. He played 70 minutes. Raul came off the bench, so presumably he will start in the Arsenal match.
Definitely.
So as they kind of make their kind of late Champions League push, right? And so they'll be presumably trying to play for like a tight draw in that Arsenal match, just get out of there with a point.
Hmm.
Um, and then Brighton Forest, kind of a tough situation for Forest right now. Forest did win on pens, but Wood didn't play. I was kind of like, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal that he had this kind of hip injury, but because it was just a bad fall. But the comments after the match made it sound like it was like he was just like in so much pain, right? So he
Hmm.
didn't even make the 18. I think there has to be a strong doubt over whether he starts at midweek, which
Yes.
probably pushes some people who are like on the fence about wild carding into that wild card because it's just one more player. Like if you have like Trent, for example, like I have Trent, like his injury is actually like incredibly annoying from a
Uh-huh.
like figuring out what to do with my team perspective, right? Because it's I just basically don't have any good defenders. Like I would say that I would be feeling much if I had a full week to do my wild card, I'd feel a lot better about it. I think it's the
Hmm.
fact that I have like a day and a half that sort of
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, because yes, in theory we had 2 full weeks, right, because of the international break, but you couldn't do any real thinking about it until the
No.
FA Cup because you had to figure out what the schedules look like, right?
Yeah, it's almost like studying for an exam, but your professor doesn't tell you what to study for until the day before the
Yeah,
exam.
exactly. And
Not
so
that
it's
we
like
needed a metaphor there, but there
yeah,
you
but
go.
like, yeah, but it's but it's still. So Wood could be out. Morgan Gibbs White also went out. I don't think that's as big of a deal, but he was. That Nuno did say after the match that that was injury, like he was forced because of injury. So just in general, Forest are in kind of a tough spot, I would say, and I slightly. I mean, I don't know, like I would expect them to win when they play Man United on Tuesday, but certainly not the easiest of matches, right? And so, and if they don't have Wood and Gibbs White, I think that they're in a pretty tough spot for that match. I mean,
Hmm.
they're two. They have plenty of talent, right? Like
Hmm.
Awani and a number of players have kind of stepped up for them this season. But I do think I think that suddenly turns into a pretty tricky fixture. I think if they don't have those two players.
Yeah, don't love Forest at this point.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
and their fixtures are just not awesome
yeah,
regardless through the rest of the season. They've got some potential double opportunities coming,
yeah,
but still I wonder. You talked about Fulham playing tightly against Arsenal. I'm not sure that Fulham really know how to do that, but this Forest team certainly do. And the closer they get to the end of the season, clinching that top four, top five position, I think
yeah,
the tighter and tighter they're going to get.
yeah,
So I kind of
yeah.
like. I still
100%.
I like I like their defenders and cells way more than Wood and Gibbs White and Alenga and Hudson Odoi at this point now. Just kind of like thinking about that as a strategy.
Yeah, I mean, Alanga, it feels like he's really shined too when Forest have been like missing kind of any of their talismanic players, right? So
Mhm.
I think that yeah, he's a really interesting option. I think, yeah, still kicking myself not having him for game week 29 when I free hit.
Mm.
So okay, so that's so they go through. I think it's leads to a pretty fun FA Cup semifinal too. I think it's uh I don't actually have it in front of me here, but I believe is it Villa Man City and Palace Forest. I think that's what it is, right?
E- it's Palace, Villa, and Forest City.
Palace Villa and
Yeah,
Forest City, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, and, I don't know. I think like that's like it could be kind of. I mean, first of all, the semifinals are both good, and I think no matter what combination of those four we get for a final, that should lead to an interesting
Hmm.
final too.
No doubt.
All right, so that's where we are. Let me share. This is the latest chart from our friend Ben Crellin. Now, this is like all kind of predicted stuff, and I realize people listening to the podcast can't see this, and so I'm not going to talk like everyone can see it, but I'm sharing it, Brendan, so that you can take a look at it as we talk here.
Love it.
So what we know is, what we knew before is that in game week 32, right? It's a couple weeks. I guess it's like a week and a half from now. Crystal Palace will play twice. They'll play away at Man City, away at Newcastle. Newcastle double. They host Man United and Crystal Palace. What we think will happen, right, is that Crystal Palace will then have another double in game week 33. Man City will likely have a double as well. Villa, same thing. And the doubles are the double is not great for Crystal Palace for 32, but it's pretty good for 33. It would be Bournemouth. It's better anyway. I guess it's not good, but it's they do play twice. It's Bournemouth at home and Arsenal away. Man City, Everton away, Villa at home. Villa also good chance of doubling in 33. It'd be Newcastle and Man City, so another kind of a tricky one there. Newcastle at home though, so that's a little bit better. And then Arsenal have probably the best double potentially again. They would play Ipswich and Crystal Palace. Of course, Arsenal are also the toughest team to get any kind of read on, but that's kind of where we stand right now.
It feels like double Arsenal defense is the move if you're wild carding right now. And the drafts I'm seeing, like on the Always Cheating Discord or online, where are the Arsenal defenders? If you're not having Haaland or Cole Palmer in your wild card, you should be able to afford like anybody at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, and they're not even that expensive. I mean, even like some of the players who've had like small price rises on Arsenal, I mean, whereas like even Timber's only at 5.6 million. That's not crazy, right? That's a very like reasonable price. So I think for me, like when I look ahead to 33, I've got two Palace players, one Man City, one Villa, no Arsenal at the moment. And then there's like a outside chance that Forest and Brentford both have doubles in 33 as well. So though that Ben considers that unlikely. So I do think it's tricky. I think the thing that I have to sort of figure out, one of the reasons why I think it's sort of sensible for me to wild card in 30, but I have to really make sure that I'm smart with my planning, is that if we get all of these doubles in 33, four of those, like basically all of the teams that double in 33 will then not play in 34, right? So if I kind of go all in on those four clubs, I am in a very tricky spot for 34 because I don't have my free hit available anymore because I had to play it in 29. So for me, it's like the only kind of club that I would really want to be kind of all in on is Newcastle, right? Because they have the double in 32. And thankfully they do they do host Ipswich in 34, which is kind of like having a double, right? It's like a double worthy kind of fixture. So I can kind of, if I'm wild carding now and I don't have a free hit, like if I'm listening to the podcast right now and you're sort of like you are in the same spot as me, I think the one thing I've got to do is have 3 Newcastle on my wild card because they're the one team that can I can sort of attack the double in 32 and then sort of be okay in game week 34, right? So that would be sort of a big priority for me if I was putting together a team. So that's kind of where I am right now. What about you? Like, what are you thinking?
I have no earthly idea. I'll be honest with you. And it's funny, Cole Palmer, all of my strategy seems to hang on him.
Yeah.
And you would say why? Because he's been in miserable form the last month or so, or longer. He's expensive. Just get rid of him and look at all the cash flow you have.
Yeah.
But that Spurs fixture feels good to me for Cole Palmer. And I just, if I can keep him as a little bit of a differential and I have some confidence that he's going to play, I don't have any big problems to solve with my game week 30 team.
Right.
So I just kind of push this or kick this wild card can down the road.
Right.
And the whole notion of going all in game week 33 feels very good to me. But to wild card now, or even just ahead of 33, you are, as you point out, you're contending with those blanks in game week 34. Now, is that like a craven way to manage your team? Like, just go for it. Like, what are you trying to dance around here? But there does feel like if there were a more seamless, non-wild cardy way to get into game week 33 and then wild card coming out of it.
Yeah.
There's something there.
I
But
know.
the
This
way I
is
look at it, it
yeah.
does feel like game week 33 has bench boost written all over it.
Mm,
Uh, and
right.
so thus wild carding in game week 31 or game week 32 to set yourself up for that game week 33 bench boost feels good, which then
Right.
again makes me say I don't want a wild card in game week 30 because there's a lot of, particularly when you put bench boost into the mix, it's like a heavy degree of optimization just to make sure that almost everybody on your bench is at least going to play and
Totally.
get
Yeah, you
minutes.
want two keepers. It's kind of tricky. I mean, yeah, like for me, I guess I would have to have Nick Pope in my position, right? Because if I wanted to have two double game week
Yeah.
keepers, I would have him, which actually isn't the worst thing. He's just expensive. That's really the only problem. But I guess I would probably like in that situation, I would just hold on to Dean Henderson, right? And then kind of keep him for the two doubles and then have Nick Pope
Hmm.
and he would just be one of my Newcastle players, which isn't again not a terrible spot to be in.
Yeah.
I was just thinking like if I were to wild card this week, and I'm just sort of thinking out loud here, just sort of looking at the teams that double in the weeks ahead. I think the front line is fairly straightforward. I think what I would have Mateta, Isak and Marmouche. Those would be the three that I would have up front,
Hmm.
right? And
Sure.
that would give me Mateta for the back-to-back double game weeks, Marmouche for Man City's double game week, and then Isak for the double in 32, and then the Ipswich match in 34.
Hmm.
That would mean, I guess, not having. I mean, really, you wouldn't be passing up that much. You'd be passing up Ollie Watkins. There's no forwards on Arsenal right now. Um, I mean, if Haaland is out, that's actually ideal from like a
Hmm.
kind of just it really simplifies your decision making if he's not out, and you can make an argument that you just can't have him right now anyway, right? Like if you're talking about bench boosting, the a major impediment to a bench boost is having a 16 million player on your team
Yeah.
who you don't really trust to captain anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's a good point. The budget just basically is infinite.
Yeah,
If you
there's
cut Holland out, and then it looks like Cole Palmer's not going to survive
a
anybody's wild card
yeah,
at this point. So yeah, I feel like bench boost just gets better and better the way you look at that. I
yeah,
did think going through the international break that a game week 30 wild card was possible for me because I have one free transfer now going into the game week 30 deadline. And we've talked a lot about Palace's doubles. Palace have Southampton, the quote unquote best fixture of any game week in
right.
game week 30. And I have no Palace players, and I want at least two of them
Hmm.
the way this is going with the doubles on top of Southampton in game week 30.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of committed to a -4 going into game week 30, and then you say, well, why not just play the wild card?
right.
And um, that I think I've kind of already stated my logic as to why I don't want to wild card in
Yeah.
game week 30, just so I
How many
can
transfers do you have again?
one.
One. Yeah. I mean, because I think the other, in some ways, I actually wonder if the decision to wildcard or not could also hinge on the Holland situation. Because, like, if like, because they do play Leicester at home in game week 30. And again, along with Southampton, one of the best fixtures you can have, right? So if we know that Marmouche is going to be kind of the sole attacker up
Hmm.
front for Man City for game week 30, that's another kind of like that. Then you really have two transfers you want to make, right? Like with,
Hmm.
Marmouche and then, um, yeah, something like you said, -4, even like a -8. Like it just like, at some point you're like, yeah, you might as well just wild card. I will say if you feel like your
Hmm.
team looks pretty good, I mean, I do think a good rule of thumb in general in fantasy is like there's no point in don't wild card from like a kind of theoretical, like it
Hmm.
is theoretically optimal to wild card right now. Like I generally feel like it's a good rule of thumb. Like if you look at your team and you like your 11, or you kind of like your 11 if you can make your one free transfer or whatever, right? And you like it, that's usually a reason not to wild card, right? If you're like, well, if I
Hmm.
just did this and this and this and this and this, um, then I could surge ever higher, right? And I feel like sometimes that's you end up just kind of like trading in all the people who kind of got you to where you are. I mean, for
Yeah.
me, like I'm nowhere special. So it's like easy to feel a little more like, well, I might as well just blow it all up right now anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of looking at my squad and I'm like, it's a mess, right? I've got Raul away to Arsenal, Otara may or may not start. And Boma away to Newcastle. It's not great. Palmer's still flagged. My back line. I mean, listen, look at my back line, Brandon. I mean, I'm not going to share it with you, but I'll just tell it to you.
Mm.
I have Branthwaite away to Liverpool, Robinson, Anthony Robinson away to Arsenal, Greaves away to Bournemouth, an injured Trent, and Dorgu, who probably won't even start for Man United. There's
You
not a single
no,
good player in that
no.
five. Like I basically have no choice but to wild card. Like I
Mm.
would not be wild carding out of sheer stubbornness if I
Yeah.
don't do it. So in some ways, it's easier for me to talk about this because there's kind of no point in me not wild carding,
Yeah.
other than the inevitable pain of game week 34 when all of the players that I bring in don't play, right? And so I think that's the
And you have no free hit left.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. I don't have a free hit yet. So I think then again, not to be repetitive, but then that's where it's crucial because if you've got three Newcastle, you're good. And then you sort of look through like who else has a good fixture in 34. I think that you could look at um
Fulham.
well, yeah, I'm a little worried about. Yeah, they do. I mean, they do. Unfortunately, like the fixtures leading up to that are kind of all bad, right? Like, so I guess you could just stick like Anthony Robinson on the bench or something like that,
Hmm.
right? Um, but yeah, I mean, who else has like a decent fixture?
Liverpool.
Yeah, yeah, Liverpool. Why does it feel like Liverpool always have a good fixture? When's the last time you looked
Hmm.
and Liverpool had a tough fixture? I mean, it's
Hmm.
so funny. I mean, like, what is the next hard fixture for them this season? Everton, Fulham. I mean, Fulham away, that's not going to be easy. West Ham,
Arsenal in
Leicester, Spurs.
36.
Yeah, there you go. And I think Brighton away in 37 could be tough too. So, yeah, so it could be. Yeah, it'll be. I mean, I kind of hope it comes to pass that Arsenal match in 36 is a genuine, like there's some genuine title stakes, right?
Mm.
That would require a few Liverpool losses though in the next couple of weeks.
Hmm.
So we'll see what happens there. So any other kind of takeaways right now? I know we don't have everything kind of settled yet, but that's how things are looking at the moment.
Yeah, that is how things are looking. I do like the inclusion of Aston Villa here. Like Villa feels like more so than Palace because Palace have been in such good form the
Yeah,
last few game weeks that kind of all sort of made up our mind on which players we want.
yeah,
Villa is still something that is no one knows. No one knows
yeah,
who's going to start, where they're going to play,
yeah,
et cetera, et cetera. So I like that they're here as a wild card, and
yeah,
maybe if you can crack that one, particularly
yeah,
Villa having Southampton in game week 32. If you
yeah.
choose to load up on the right guys, it could really be a big boost to your season.
The other way to look at it is maybe they're the team that you kind of have to fade if you have a free hit. Like, or I mean, if you don't have a free hit,
Hmm.
like maybe you just have to just ignore their double, right? For all the reasons you just stated. I mean,
Hmm.
I guess Ollie Watkins, like he's the one player you'd really want for
Your
33.
commitment to
Like,
Watkins is
no, I'm just like like literally like of the players in 33, or I mean of the players on Villa that you would want for the double, who else would you want besides Ollie Watkins?
maybe Rashford, maybe Asensio,
Yeah, Asensio.
maybe Rogers.
Asensio would be the one, although there were like rotation patterns with him are still throwing me off a little bit. It's like he doesn't always start, right? And I feel like that's. I mean, if they're kind of like saving him for the Champions League a little bit. It seems like so.
Hmm.
I don't know. He did start, but then he got subbed early. So I mean, I'm sure he should start at midweek. I would think,
Hmm.
but again,
Yeah.
it's you just never really know with Emery. He's really. I mean, he knows what he's doing. It's just like from a fantasy perspective, it's frustrating, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes. It is.
yeah,
It is. Hence the sort of the delight of how chaotic Villa is making it.
Yeah, that's true. It does make for a fun uh, stress, but stress can be fun. It's I mean it's sports stress. It ultimately doesn't matter. So yeah, so I have no free hit, but I still have my wild card, my bench boost, and my triple captain. Right,
Uh,
so still got lots of bullets to fire. You have wild card, bench boost, triple captain, and a free hit. So you
that's
actually
right.
have 4 chips to play in the final 9 weeks of
Yeah.
the season. So you've got a lot kind of coming up.
Yeah, and I feel a little looser with my wild card strategy because I still have the free hit because there's probably going to be two big-ish blanks,
Yeah,
34, 37 of questionable sizes. So the free hit is just my get out of jail free card for either of those weeks.
yep,
So that just kind of depends on what the wild card strategy ends up being. So yeah, I do feel kind of um, charged up by what's happening
it's good. You
entering
seem,
chip season.
yeah, you seem stressed. So, but charged up would be good. That
Well,
would be,
stress,
yeah,
the stress would come from think I speak for probably everybody listening, not knowing what the plan is.
yeah,
And, and I think it's okay. A lot of questions, and we'll get to some listener questions later on, is
yeah,
well, what is the meta right now? And I think if you see a meta out there, and i.e. the optimal way to play the rest of the season, I don't
hmm,
believe it because I just as much information as we have, especially looking at Ben Crellin's chart, just don't
yep,
think we have all of the pieces to create a meta.
yeah. Yeah, But again, I mean, yeah, sometimes even when you have it, it doesn't mean you can crack it, right? Like it's,
Hmm.
so I think yeah, I think that's like, if there's like a kind of takeaway here, and I think we should move into game week 30 because again, it starts in 2 days. But I think I'll keep this chart up so we can see the game weeks ahead too, because I think it's useful when you think about transfers. Is that I don't know. Like, if you like your team for this week, don't force yourself into a wild card just because people are doing it. And if you don't like your team this week, you might as well just do a wild card and just kind of be smart when you kind of look ahead. And you're going to
Hmm.
have to make some assumptions about when teams double and sort of trust. That's why I sort of spent a little extra time at the beginning of this podcast talking about trusting the experts, right? These people who like spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff. Like, they really, like, they have an excellent hit rate when it comes to this stuff. It does not mean that they are always right, but in
Hmm.
general, I really do trust that when Ben puts together one of these charts, it's probably going to be close to what we
Hmm.
actually see,
Yep,
when
agreed.
everything's revealed. All right, so that is where we are, kind of with all the doubles and the blanks. So game week 30. Actually, I just want to do a quick shout out, a thank you to everyone who supports the podcast on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/always cheating, you can support the podcast. End of the month is coming up by the time you listen to this pod, actually. So first of the month's always a great time to support a new pod. A little,
Mm.
little way to say thank you as the season approaches the end. And if you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/always cheating. And we've got extra podcasts that we do each week. We'll certainly have one that we do this Thursday once game week 30 concludes. So yeah, lots more to come. We'll sort of preview game week 31 as well, which will start this
Mhm.
weekend. So, but game week 30, Brendan, does kick off on Tuesday. I don't know what noise I just made there. I think I said Thursday.
Third day.
Yeah, it was like I started to say Thursday. My brain was like, no, that's not the
Sure.
right word.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, it starts on Tuesday. And we have 3 matches. Not the kind of, usually I feel like in my head, it feels like usually the Tuesday matches. I think it's often because Sunday is like the kind of like Super Sunday, right? Where they often do like the featured teams. And so
Mhm.
those teams often play a little later in the week. But because of this kind of funky post international break FA Cup thing, they didn't have to do that. So we have some pretty big games at the start of the midweek. Arsenal hosting Fulham. And again, I think Fulham have a shot at a Champions League spot. I'm excited about the push here. You don't, but I think it's gonna be cool to see what
Excited
happens.
about the push. I love
Uh,
it. Yeah.
hey, a push for Champions League spot is cool. I think you're not excited about it. I think it's cool. I think it's awesome, and I'm like genuinely rooting for Fulham to get a Champions League spot. I just
Okay.
don't. You're just a little too pessimistic for me
Uh-huh.
sometimes.
Okay.
And Arsenal, I mean, whatever. They're just like playing out the stretch here, basically. But maybe they'll go on some kind of run. I don't know. I mean, who even knows with them right
Arsenal
now?
also on a Champions League push. Get excited.
That's true. I mean, the 2 wins in 5. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Let's see if they can keep that momentum going. If
Mm-hmm.
they can get 3 wins in their final 9, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that'd be great. They are, I mean, we'll see what happens. They're 12 back of Liverpool, but again, long way to go here. Fulham right now are 4 points back of a Champions League spot. And in better form than Arsenal, actually. They have 3 wins in their last 5. So I don't know. Do you give Fulham any kind of chance here? Obviously, the FA
No,
Cup does
I
not.
don't. No,
Okay, there's that classic Kelly pessimism right there.
I just
Love to
don't.
see it. No, it's
I just
fine.
don't.
No, I
It's
like the
not.
honesty. I give them a chance. I think they could get a draw out of this for sure. But again,
They
that's how
could
I
beat
approach
Arsenal. They
sports.
could beat Arsenal, no doubt about it.
But you don't get. They could beat Arsenal, but you don't give them a chance.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Uh,
I don't give them a rat's chance.
Yeah, they don't have a rat's chance. So I think that Arsenal are still. I think you're right when it comes to wild card and thinking about their upcoming double. Just focus on the defense or the defense, if you will,
Uh-huh.
and I would ignore the midfield and the forward lines. I mean, I tried again with my free hit in 29, and I got an assist out of Odegaard, which is fine, but it's just not a fun place to be right now with their midfield. I mean, I know people are coming back, and maybe by the time the doubles roll around, we'll have a healthy Saka. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
possible. It's not. I wouldn't bank on it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
given how many months he's been out now, I would almost think the priority would be. I don't really know. I mean, I guess they have to just kind of push on, right? I mean, they're out of the Champions League, so it's sort of yeah. I don't know. Just go for it.
Arsenal? You talking about?
Or no, they're in the Champions League, right? Yeah, what am I
Yeah.
talking? Yeah, so so I guess
Yeah,
the
they have
goal would
Real
just
Madrid.
they have Real Madrid in the
Yeah.
Champions League, right? I was thinking of Liverpool for a second who got knocked. Again, it's been like 6 weeks since there was like a match that mattered that was played, so it's like going on like what's been stored in my short-term memory banks right now,
Yes,
and
sure. We're stuffed full of Major League Soccer data at the moment.
yeah.
That's
Okay,
what's
let's
replaced
do
all
a
this.
quick refresh of the Champions League bracket. Okay,
Okay.
so we have right now we've got Arsenal and Real Madrid, and they play a week from Tuesday. April 8th is when
Mm-hmm.
they play their first leg. And then PSG and Villa, so they're in the same like block of 4 teams at the top
Okay.
of the draw. They play Wednesday next week. And then at the bottom half, we've got Barcelona, Dortmund, and Bayern, Inter. So really, honestly, a pretty cool final 8. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sort of I've said this many times before, but I feel like I'm more jazzed about the Champions League than I am
Mm-hmm.
the Premier League to a certain degree this year. Just because I don't know, I just like it's been kind of fun. I mean, maybe honestly, part of it's just Barcelona looking kind of like feisty again, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sort of feels like it's been like a few years since we've had like a kind of genuinely fun team, and like and maybe there's like a little extra fun there just because Rafinha is involved, right? And
That's
like
like
all
Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen. I know that guy.
yeah, a little bit, but like who didn't love Rafinha, right? I mean, he was like a
Oh, you'll not catch any Rafinha hate from me.
right, exactly. So, anyway, so I would think that with Arsenal, maybe the priority is to try to get him ready for a Champions League
Mm-hmm.
push, right? I
I
mean, they're
think so.
12 back in the league, and but they could definitely they can beat Real Madrid. If they can find a way to beat Real Madrid, then I think they have a genuine shot to win the
Mm-hmm.
Champions League. I mean, I just think their defense is that good,
Mm-hmm.
right? That they have a chance to do
Mm-hmm.
it. So we'll see. A lot of people have to come back from injury though. But yeah, I think that this is a tricky match from an FPL perspective for sure. I think that um, I don't know. I feel like a 1-1 honestly feels like the kind of result I might expect from this match.
Arsenal Fulham we're talking about here.
Arsenal
Yeah.
Fulham still, yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think 1-1 or a 2-1 to either side feels
Yeah.
right.
Wolves West Ham is the second of the three matches on Wednesday. Cunha's still out, so I don't know. I mean, like, and there's really just not a lot of not. Again, this is like we're starting to fall into that point in the season where you really do start building your teams around blanks and doubles and things like that. And what then ends up meaning is certain teams just kind of like get ignored for the rest of the season, right? Maybe until
Yeah.
game week 38. And I think Wolves sort of fall into that category, right? Especially with Cunha out.
They do, unfortunately, because they have a really great run of fixtures coming
Yeah,
up with
it's true.
West Ham, Ipswich, Spurs, United, and Leicester in that blank
Yeah,
game week 34.
yeah,
But I tend to agree, it's just too valuable a spot. And it just
yeah.
Cunha's too bad of a boy to trust.
I guess you could argue that I don't know. That maybe like if you were wild carding in a game week 31 or 32,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you were going to wait to trigger the wild card. I mean, at 32 game week 32 wild card. The only problem with that is that, well, I guess like if you didn't have your triple captainship, a game week 32 wild card would probably be fine. I'm sort of leaning towards triple captain Isak in 32,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Mm-hmm.
obviously you can't play two chips in the same week. But I mean, there are like other players that you could consider, playing. Unfortunately, we're not going to get a double with Liverpool the rest of the season, right? So
Yeah.
we're not gonna get a Salah double.
I cannot believe I'm not going to get to play my triple captain on Salah.
Oh no, we had to get our 8 points from Arne Slot from the
Mm-hmm.
assistant manager chip.
Felt
So
right. Felt
that
good
felt
at
right.
the time,
Yeah.
didn't it?
Speaking of, I think the assistant manager, um, I do think that Palace, which actually has worked out already well for some people, that using the assistant manager chip in the Palace manager on Glasner in 32 and then moving it to Howe in 34 would be could be a really good use of that chip if you still have it.
Yeah.
Because then
Yeah,
you'd have
32, it's a table bonus for Glasner. That's what it is. Playing both Man City and Newcastle, if Palace beat one of those teams,
which is
the
eminently possible given their
yeah, them
form.
being
Yeah.
at least 5 spots below either of those teams means a big bump for Glasner as assistant manager.
Yeah, and then another double in 33, and then you could move over to Newcastle for home Ipswich, and good chance of goals there certainly, and a decent chance of a clean sheet as well, and obviously a strong chance for just a straight up win in that match. So yeah, so I think that it's Forest Man United are the third match in game week 30. Both these squads again are teams that aren't going to. I mean, we will eventually get a double, but with Forest, but that one's like a lot harder to predict. Um, I think that given all the injury issues with them right now, they're sort of like on the avoid list for me. And Bruno. I mean, I don't know. Bruno Fernandez wasn't a great run of form, but I wouldn't necessarily. He's not a buy for me at the moment. I mean, especially
Fixtures are terrible.
fixtures are terrible. Yeah, exactly. Forest, Man City, Newcastle, right? Three bad ones in a row. So
Yeah, 2 of them are away as well.
yeah, two of them are away as well. So that brings us to Wednesday, and Bournemouth. I think Brendan, we didn't talk too much about midfield on wild card, but I think if I do activate the wild card, which is looking increasingly likely, honestly, that I probably would still get a Bournemouth midfielder. I mean, partially because they have some strong fixtures ahead, including playing at home in game week 34. But also they're just so cheap, right? I mean, it's like it's just not going to wreck your team structure to bring in, any of these kind of 6 million midfielders, right? And so, I'm still kind of, I think that Clivert is still a great buy, even on a wild card, right? Just because, and also like you can't just ignore the non-double game week fixtures, right? I mean, Ipswich is a great fixture in game week 30. West Ham is a great fixture away in 31. Even Fulham in 32, I think is pretty strong fixture.
Yeah, Clivert has just been most consistent. There are so many performers in the Bournemouth midfield, but even against City in the FA Cup, he was the assist to Evan Nielsen. His XGI is flawless, Joshua.
Yeah. So is his GI tracked,
Yes,
Brandon,
clean as a
great.
whistle.
Yeah, it's both GIs are doing great, which is I think really great news. So we talked about we talked about Villa already and how they're kind of a tough team to look at to buy. Brighton, I still don't have a handle on this team. I like if you have like some sage advice, Brandon, I would love to hear it. I mean, I can kind of just give you the floor. I could walk away for a couple minutes. Just unload. Give me all your Brighton thoughts. Just kind of brain dump, like 3 to 5 minutes, really, and go as long as you want.
Insert sound effect. So, in conclusion, that's why I think you should triple up on Brighton. Uh, no.
Very tricky.
There's no upside with Brighton at the moment, unfortunately. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's tough.
Leicester in 32 at home, great, interesting. I'm
Hmm.
listening.
Yep.
West Ham at home in 34. I guess there's a little bit of upside there when you think about it, when you put it that
Yeah.
way.
Well, I
But
think they're
mhm,
a good. They're fun to like free hit, like in 30. If you're free hitting in 34,
yeah.
I like them for that for sure.
hmm I do too. Yeah, that's a good call. It feels like it's all attack,
Yep.
whether it's Minta, Matoma, Joe Pedro. We'll see what Welbeck's
Yep.
starting situation is like as we get closer to 34. But
Yep.
I do not trust them for clean sheets against
Yep.
anyone.
So Man City Leicester, we've talked about this fixture a little bit already. I mean, it's really do we feel any better about the defenders? I mean, I don't, but like
No,
I don't know.
no,
Yeah,
no. I
yeah.
never,
It's
I
just the
never
same.
will.
It's the same situation as before. It's and I think again, if Haaland is out, I think you just give Marmoush and that's it, right?
Sure.
That him and
Yeah.
get Marmoush and run. Don't even try to talk yourself into a Man City midfielder because it's only going to end in heartbreak.
I'm having flashbacks to not having Bruno in game week 29, and I figured what's the worst that can happen because Manchester United weren't in like scorching hot form,
Yep.
and you were playing at the King Power. You think Leicester will at least have a little bit of pride. Turns out that Leicester are criminally bad,
Uh huh.
and I fear the same again with Marmouche in the City fixture because you could level the same criticism against City not being very consistent. Like, where are they dominating their opponents? And it's very hit or miss with them.
Yep.
And then these are the times when fantasy managers get totally punished by not just doing the obvious thing. So I'm kind of in the middle of that sort of like seesaw of just get Marmouche, you idiot, and fade Man City because Leicester.
Yeah. I think getting Marmoush is really a strong move for game week 30. Like it's like I mean, I do hear what you're saying and like
hmm
the inconsistency, but he's honestly been the one bright spot, right? And he's shown even in recent weeks, right? And in
Yeah.
fantasy and then again this weekend. It does feel like and it could just be form, and maybe he's nothing next year, right? But at the moment, it seems like he's kind of I don't know, he's stepping up.
Yeah.
And Leicester are so bad,
They are
so
bad.
truly bad. They
hmm
are like Southampton have been so bad that Leicester have skated by a little bit, right? And we all have a little bit of residual affection for Leicester. I know I do. Talked about it many times
hmm
in the pod. My love of the King Power Stadium
hmm
and their great supporters, and Jamie Vardy, of course, as well.
hmm
Yeah, they've been terrible. They have just haven't been fun. Like you can't watch Leicester play. Like it's not even fun to watch their matches, right? It's like it's just so one sided.
yeah.
It's yeah, it's pretty rough.
Whatever. Yeah. Whatever like organization they had in the back room is gone, and
Yeah, yeah.
just seems that they're holding on to past glory at this point.
It's a bummer. So Newcastle Brentford, we talked about that already. I think that would be another reason I think to wild. I mean, I don't know. It sort of depends on. I mean, if we could linger on Newcastle for a second, because I do think if you are wild carding, I mentioned before it doesn't if you have a free hit, it doesn't really matter as much. But for me, I do think that Pope and Isak are the kind of top two. If I were to have a third Newcastle player, do you think the ideally you would have a midfielder or ideally you would have a second defender? And just as a recap, they host Brentford in 30, away to Leicester in 31, and then Man United and Palace both at home in 32. So that's their next four
hmm
fixtures, and those are all confirmed, locked in for the next four.
I think you double up on the attack and not the defense because their defense is still pretty banged up.
Yeah,
And with the Lewis Hall injury and Dan Byrne, as good as he is, just kind of a makeshift center
yeah,
back pairing with Shar. Nick Pope is not playing his best
yeah,
football these days. So, yeah, I just feel like there's way more upside with the
yeah.
attack.
It's a tricky spot though. I think it's hard to find. Like I mean, Bruno Guimaraes is like a kind of high floor, low
Mm,
ceiling option, right? Um, I guess Harvey Barnes might be a fun pick, right? Anthony Gordon is well, he's actually only out for one. Well, he's suspended until April 7th. So what is that? That would be the next two fixtures.
Mhm.
So it's a little tricky. I mean, I guess the other thing you could do would be to um, just get to Newcastle if you were wild carding, and then plan your transfer around Gordon and 32, right? And that could
Mhm.
be one possible move. I don't always love that because planned transfers tend to blow up in your face, right? But that I think that would be one possible move. I mean, I think otherwise I guess Bruno Gamarish and just kind of hope that he has like a
Murphy, I
little
think,
run.
is a pretty good option. He's the Almiron of today, where he's hit a good vein of form for whatever
Yeah,
reason
that's true.
this season, and he's crossing, he's scoring.
Yeah.
I like him because he skirts around that whole Barnes Gordon situation
Yeah.
because he'll continue to start.
Yeah, he's a tricky player. He can be I don't know, he can sort of frustrate watching, but I kind of like him too. He's a high energy player. Yeah, so he is kind of the Almiron. I
Hmm.
agree. But he's played like tons of minutes this season. So
Hmm.
I think the other as far as Pope goes, he's actually a little cheaper than I realized. He's only 4.9 million. So it's not gonna it's not really gonna hurt your team value too much to bring
Mm.
him in.
What does that tell you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, he's not up from 4.5 to 4.9. I'll tell you that much. So just kind of moving through the rest of these fixtures here. So Southampton Palace. We already talked about Palace. Liverpool Everton. I mean, Liverpool is kind of falling off the radar a little bit. I mean, I feel like um, it's still kind of the same old story, right? It's well, I plan to captain Salah this week, and I don't plan to have any other Liverpool players.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's
Yep.
and the Merseyside derby is always vexed in fantasy because Everton are always the inferior team, yet
Yep.
you always expect a very good and tight
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
It's like a true derby, unlike
Doesn't it feel like they always play it out of the international break too? Like, and I feel
mm,
like it feels like there's so
there's
often
never a
like
good
it's
time, is there?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I guess not. And then that brings us to Chelsea Spurs, the final match on Thursday. Not a ton to say fantasy wise here, I think. I mean, other than hoping we get some news on Cole Palmer, right? But again,
yeah.
will we get
Yep.
it before Tuesday? Hard to say.
Just any a pic on the Instagram of him on grass with the team,
Yeah.
and but we're not going to get it before the deadline. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Chelsea, it's going to be like state secrets with them because they have lost their edge. They're barely clinging on to like fifth place. Are they even in fifth right now? And they're going to have
They're
to
in
do.
fourth.
They're
Yeah.
in fourth, yeah. So, but still clinging,
Yep.
and they're going to
Three
need to
three losses in five.
get every edge they can to hang on to a Champions League position. So I don't think we're getting any information ahead of the deadline.
Yeah, I don't think so either. They have no incentive to give anything out, that's for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's a tricky one. And again, yeah, there's just not a lot to look at from a fantasy perspective from either team at the moment. I mean, maybe there's some like diamonds in the rough with Spurs given their injury.
Yeah.
I'm just like I'm not uh I'm not excited about either squad. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
I hear you about like it could be a good fixture for Palmer, but I also feel like it's kind of been a little bit of a trap for us the last few weeks, right? This like feeling like like Palmer is just about to turn the
Yeah.
corner, right? And
Sure.
he still doesn't have a return since game week 21.
Hmm.
So a ridiculous stretch. I mean, he didn't play in 29, but still, a lot of blanks from 22 to 28. All right, so let's wrap things up here, Brandon, with just a couple of questions. I think we kind of talked about our transfer decisions already. We talked about wild card per Boston Prof. We talked about chip strategy. Oh, we're like we're doing great here, Brandon.
Good. Okay, good. We're ahead of
Yeah,
it.
GP asked if we're sold on Marmouche as a Saka enabler. So yeah, what is the latest on Saka, Brandon? I mean,
He's let's see. The latest quote would be circa. It's been weeks since we have a quote from Dinnery who says he's got a good chance of returning in April. He's going to be here at the training facilities, hopefully more with the ball at his feet than he has had. Getting closer, he's stepping up and making very good progress. I do think you're correct that this will largely be geared toward the Champions League, and uh, I'm fine. I guess I'm fine, sort of like planning to get Saka at some point before the end of the season. But I think we've talked enough about Marmoush in this episode to say that Marmoush is not an enabler in this moment. And I wonder if
Yeah.
this question was asked before there were details of the Haaland injury coming. Marmoush is just a good buy, regardless of what
Yeah.
your plans are with the rest of your team.
I agree. And I honestly, I don't like Saka the only reason I would want to have Saka in FPL down the stretch would be if Arsenal won their next, several matches and Liverpool lost the next several matches, right? And then they were in a position where it really mattered. I mean, I guess the other way would be if they sort of um, yeah, lose massively in the first leg versus Real Madrid, right? And it kind of feels
Mhm.
like that's it's just kind of over. Then maybe that's another. But like in general, you're down 12 points in the league, and but it's a clean slate in the Champions League, right? Like, so he's
Yeah.
back. Posted a photo back in training last week. Like, there's just no reason to risk him anytime soon, and I just don't know why you'd even really play him down the stretch
It's
in the
also a
Premier League,
clean slate at the start of next season. Arsenal have to be already thinking about how do they win the league next season. And
right?
if you bring Saka back in the wrong way and too
Right.
soon,
Yep. Yep.
you could
Yep.
break him forever.
Exactly. That's why Phil Foden's been so bad this year because they're bringing him along slowly for next season. They're kind of playing the
Mm,
long
the
game.
old
See?
rope a dope.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, here's just a quickie for you.
Mm,
Sam C asked, who would you go for as a 1 week punt before the wild card, Mateta or Marmouche?
Marmouche.
Yeah, me too. It's a tricky one, right? It's just kind of home versus away, I guess would be the decider
The
there.
thing there too is I think there's enough upside with Palace against Southampton that take a hit. Get them, why not both? I say.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Actually, it's not a bad hit. The one worry with Mateta, not to complicate things again, would be leading into game week 34. The last, like, Palace are in an interesting spot right now where they basically aren't going to play in Europe and aren't going to get relegated, right? And the
They
last
don't have a chance shot at the Champions League.
not a Fulham level chance. I think they'd have to jump. They'd have to
Mm,
leapfrog a lot of
mm,
people.
okay.
Let me like
So negative.
I'll take a very quick peek at the table here. Yeah, they're
Uh-huh.
in 12th. I mean, it's not going to happen, right?
Well, what's the point? What's the points difference between where
well. Can
Palace
I
is and
finish my thought here?
okay.
So no, but I mean, they're 10 points back, but they'd also have to leap over 8 teams. So it's
Mhm.
like it's a hard thing to do in 8 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but the final match for them in 33 is away to Arsenal before they play the Champions League, or I mean the FA Cup semifinal, right? So I think there's a good chance that they field an incredibly weak team in the
Mm,
second leg of that double gaming before gaming 34, because if you have a chance to win, like, so if you're not going to go up or down, but you could actually win the FA Cup, like, I
mhm.
think that's a
It's
big
a big
priority.
deal.
So that actually, I think, lends itself again to this idea of doubling up on Arsenal defenders, possibly, right? Because
Mhm.
that could end up being an extremely good fixture from Arsenal from a defensive point of view if
Mhm.
Palace field a weak squad in 33. So just something to keep in mind, I guess.
Is Nketiah, is he on loan? Can he play against Arsenal? I
That's a
just wonder if
that's a good
Mateta
question.
becomes fixture proof there.
You know, I don't know. Hold on one second here. That's actually an important question. Let me see if
I'm pulling up
he is.
Nketiah's.
No, he signed with
Okay, all right.
Palace.
So your logic remains stands. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
25 million. Interesting. Yeah, I guess he's good enough as a backup, right? He scored. I
Mm,
mean,
that's cool.
he can score goals. Like that's probably worth 25 million, even if you're not
Mhm.
starting.
Sure.
I mean, Arsenal would be playing him right now, that's for sure. If they had him. All right, so do let's do one more question.
Mhm.
John Columbus says, given that some tired players have just had an extended break, um, who's likely to return to form, and does this affect your transfer plans? Cole Palmer, Spurs guys, others. So, kind of a big question, but on the Cole Palmer front, I mean, even if he does come back, aren't you a little worried that or is it? Do you think it's just like a full reset for him? Like, it's he missed game week 29, he missed international break. Maybe it's like a chance to kind of clear the cobwebs or something. Just like fresh start.
It could go either way with
Yeah,
him. Yeah, I'm worried about Palmer and sort of like was was he going to play the way he has been playing for the last year for
yeah,
forever and become the greatest footballer in the history of England? Not likely.
yeah,
So does he just fall back down to earth and this is kind of the Cole Palmer for the rest of our lives? Probably not.
yeah.
So if he was going to return to form, so that this is the promise of the Spurs fixture. Yes, we can agree he's been in bad form. There's nothing to say that he will return to form immediately, and there is no disrespect to Spurs. However, if it's going to happen, if Cole Palmer is going to become a fantasy asset again, now is the moment.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's sort of like is it a sunk cost fallacy with Palmer where I'm just like, well, one more week, and maybe
Sounds
this
like it.
this is some
Yeah,
sort of advantage that I can carry over people who have tossed him aside. I don't know. I think I would tend to think it's kind of a gamble worth taking if you if you can, you know?
yeah.
If there's nothing else you have to fix in your team.
That's fair. Nothing else to fix, then I do like it, especially if I felt like he was definitely going to play, because
Yeah,
that would be the annoying
that's it.
thing. Obviously, is yeah, if you don't get any information, it's you're sort of banking on him being available, right?
Yeah, and the way I'm looking at my team, so I had this thought of turning Neto into Sar and Mikolenko into Munoz. And am I getting too caught up in the Southampton of it all for Palace? And if I'm taking a hit, then it's really just Wood to Marmouche,
Yeah,
Mikolenko to Munoz. And Palmer becomes a little bit more important there, but then I have a bench to utilize here. So if you have a bench to utilize, I think Palmer probably well, if he's truly injured at the moment, I could see Palmer coming off the bench for like 20 minutes just to kind of get some legs for him. It's a little bit of a risk to
yeah,
start Palmer. I hate this. I
yeah,
hate this conversation.
yeah. Yeah. I think it's very tricky too, though. I do. Yeah, you are really like going through it right now, though. It's interesting to see this happen in real time. Like you are,
Mm.
yeah, you're harboring a lot of worries right now.
Just trying to think through them all,
Hmm.
just trying to think through them all. I think the desire to not wild card, you've kind of made your peace with it. It sounds.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's easy for me because it just doesn't really
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense not to wild card.
Right. So just the knowing that I'm going into game week 30 and I'm not going to be optimized the way a lot of people pushing for, top 100K are, then you could move into this. You're trying to fit every scenario. And this is
Right,
kind of like how I'm talking through Cole Palmer. It's like, what is every conceivable scenario? And then
right,
let's like
right.
weight them and then which
Yeah,
is the likeliest, which one will help me the most? Is there upside? Is there downside? And I'm kind of doing that through my whole team, and it results in yes, this the stressed out nature that you point out.
yeah. Well, I think thankfully we only have 2 days to make up our minds. I do think this is one of the trickiest game weeks of the season, right? This like kind of moment, like where there's a quick turnaround to the next game week. We don't have confirmed doubles yet. These chips, even though they can make the game more fun and exciting, also add a lot of stress because you want to make sure you're using them the right way, you know. And so I think it's like it is a tricky stretch right now. The next couple of weeks, I think, are kind of tricky. But I think what's nice is that the Premier League's been gone for so long that it is going to be fun just to have. I guess it'll be like what, like 5 or 6 days of matches in like a week,
Hmm.
right? Because we'll have matches on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then again on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Actually, Leicester Newcastle's on Monday next week. So we'll have 6 days of matches in the next 7. Be nice to have the Premier League back again. I've definitely missed it. But it sounds like I'm wrapping up the pod, Brennan. That's because I am. Thank you to everyone for listening this week. Hopefully we've walked stuff through. I feel like this is one of those pods. Sometimes we have pods where we like really know what we're going to do going in, and sometimes we have pods where we sort of work through our own thought process in real time in the pod. That's what I feel like this one was, at least for me. And I'm just feeling great about Fulham still too, which is a good feeling.
Go Fulham.
Go Fulham. Yeah, well, I know you're not quite ready to say go Fulham, but I think it's good. We're in a good spot with me and Fulham anyway. Brendan, do you want to thank our producer patrons?
Of course, yes. Big thanks to producers Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Wagner, Lodall, our buddy Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazarus Janos, Jesse Halstead, Brian Chin. Nice to see you on the YouTube chat there, Brian. Bobbas Kuhn, Blair Jacobs, and Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, as he does it, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson, Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tislov, Fred Jacobson, Gareth H., Shalin F. Kadaki, Arishi Nigam, Noah and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Vennerstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, the 3 Jims, James Murray Wood, James C., and James Holland, Scully, Craig at Total Maths Tutoring, and Francis Mann. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us wherever you get your social media. Our website is always cheating.com.
All right. Well, there we go. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll be back on Thursday with the podcast for our Patreon supporters. Good luck to all the wild carders. We'll be on the Discord talking things through. Once I activate my wild card, I will, which maybe I'll do tonight. Certainly I'll do it in the next 12 hours or so. I'll post it on there, and I've already missed the price changes for today, so it doesn't matter as much. But I'll post some drafts on there so people can see, in case that's helpful. Good luck to everybody. Talk to you soon.
Peace.
All right. That was
That's
good.
a wrap.
All right. You seem like you were a little like I don't know, like